Sport and Rights Alliance have a history of advocacy through policy, through helping survivors with cases and so on. We do understand that human rights can be, that we need to push human rights in sports and through sports. And we're just starting this work, which is like particularly with people who are affected by violence in sport, not just sexual violence, but any kind of violence, like from psychological, physical, sexual, institutional, financial. I was a victim of sexual violence in sports myself. So we are the ones who we normalize. We don't know about our rights. And it's very hard to have any kind of response and remedy within the sports system. So it's very important that we form a coalition and that we support survivors anywhere in the world, especially in the global south and regions where there are not many systems in place and resources, in order to push the human rights agenda forward. And the survivors, the athletes, they are saying that there is no way they're going to have any sort of justice if the investigation is taken by the Indian government and or the IOA. So they are claiming for an independent investigation. So the obligation of the international community, the sports community, that do acknowledges that this is a systemic problem in sports is to stand with those athletes. I must point out that this is not in a specific problem from India. It happens all over the world. Like when we do research, when we do prevalence studies, we find that the ratings are super high. And then less than 20% of those athletes that go through cases of interpersonal violence decide to report. And the reason is very clear, that the system is broken. The system is broken everywhere, nationally or internationally. Athletes do not need to go through interpersonal violence in order to reach an Olympic medal. There is a way to train hard and to reach the peak of your performance without being abused.
We tend to look at athletes as a medium to some form, a means to some form of an end, Sometimes we think that athletes can bring us medals. Sometimes we are talking about winning club games through some athletes. So winning victory, winning medals for the country, nationalism, these kind of things become more important than the athlete herself or himself, and their rights are often compromised in sport. It's important that sport federations, which are bound by international sport federations, rules and regulations, it's important that these international federations like the United World Wrestling or the International Olympic Committee, they make sure that nationally, at the national level, national federations or national Olympic committees are functioning in the interest of athletes and are upholding athlete well-being and athlete welfare before any form of interest of certain individuals who have power in the sense that they are attached to the government or are members of the parliament. This is not unique of India. Sport creates that kind of hierarchical system where athletes are at the bottom of the pile, and therefore they're expected to be obedient to anyone who's higher up. In a traditional sport like wrestling, there is a culture where in akharas, you have to respect your gurus. In this case, when you have a formalized system, you respect somebody who's the president of the federation. So there is that kind of a hierarchy which is respected. And therefore, it takes a lot for an athlete to come up and speak up against any kind of injustice. There are lots of positives as of already that we have noticed. For example, women's groups have never been so involved in athletes' rights, which we see now. There are a lot of mobilization happening. It, in any case, sort of is generating a certain kind of awareness, which is really important. Having said that, until and unless there's a fair and independent investigation conducted, I don't think we will see an end to the current protests, and hopefully that will continue.